This is Deviation, first episode, and we're starting with a novel that broke every record in Chinese web fiction. Imagine a world that looks like Victorian London, gas lamps, top hats, secret societies whispering in the fog. But beneath the surface, there are 22 paths to godhood. Each one gives you power beyond imagination. And each one will slowly cost you your sanity, your memories, your identity, until you're no longer sure if you're still you. This novel has over 300 million reads in China alone. It sits in the British Library next to Shakespeare and Da Vinci, and I've read it 3 times. This is Lord of the Mysteries. In 2018, an author known as Cuttlefish that loves diving started posting a new novel on Qidian, China's biggest web fiction platform. It wasn't an instant hit. The opening was slow, the genre was strange, Victorian steampunk in a world dominated by 仙侠 and martial arts. Most readers didn't know what to make of it, but by the end of the first arc, word started spreading. By 2019, it was the most talked about novel on the platform. By 2020, it shattered records, the first novel in Qidian's 20-year history to break 300,000 paying subscribers per chapter. Let that sink in. 300,000 people paying to read every single update. Then it crossed borders. The English translation on WebNovel pulled in over 74 million readers. Physical copies sold over 1 million worldwide in 9 languages. In 2024, the British Library added it to their permanent collection, the same shelves that hold Shakespeare and Da Vinci's manuscripts. And last year, the DONGHUA dropped on Crunchyroll and hit number 3 on my anime list within a week. 6 seasons are already planned through 2035. Today, this novel has over 330 million reads, and I've read it 3 times. So let me tell you what all the fuss is about. So what is Lord of the Mysteries? Forget everything you think you know about Chinese web novels. There's no martial arts mountain, no cultivation cave, no jade beauties lining up to meet the protagonist. Instead, picture this: a sprawling industrial city in the late 1800s, steam-powered factories, horse-drawn carriages, newspapers shouting about politics and serial killers. It looks like London, but this isn't Earth. This is Backlund, the capital of the Loen Kingdom, and beneath its familiar surface, nothing is what it seems. There are secret churches worshipping gods that actually exist. There are underground organizations trading in forbidden knowledge. And there are beyonders, people who've consumed mysterious potions and gained powers that defy reality, divination, shapeshifting, manipulation of fate itself. Our protagonist is Klein Moretti, or at least that's the name on the body he wakes up in. He's a transmigrator, a modern person dropped into this world. But unlike most isekai protagonists, he doesn't arrive with cheat powers or a system screen. He arrives confused, broke, and immediately entangled in a death that wasn't his. What follows isn't a power fantasy, it's a mystery. Klein doesn't punch his way through problems. He investigates, he disguises himself, he plays roles. Think Sherlock Holmes meets Lovecraft, wrapped in one of the most intricate power systems ever written, and that power system is what makes this novel legendary. Let me break it down. Most fantasy novels have a simple power ladder: level 1, level 2, level 10. You get stronger, the numbers go up, the enemies get bigger. Lord of the Mysteries throws that out the window. In this world, power comes from potions, mysterious concoctions brewed from the body parts of supernatural creatures. Drink one and you become what's called a Beyonder. But here's the catch: you don't just pick a class, you step onto a pathway, one of 22, and each pathway is a completely different philosophy of power. The seer pathway lets you read fate, glimpse the future, use divination as a weapon. The tyrant pathway commands storms and lightning, raw elemental destruction. The prisoner pathway manipulates emotions and minds. The red priest pathway is pure combat, war incarnate, 22 paths, and each one feels like its own magic system. Each pathway has 10 levels called sequences. You start at sequence 9, barely superhuman, and you climb toward sequence 0, which is quite literally becoming a god. But here's what makes this system genius. Every time you advance, the potion changes you, not just your abilities, your personality, your desires, your sense of self. Advance too fast or too recklessly, and you lose control. You go mad, you become a monster. The novel calls it losing control, and when it happens, it's terrifying. Imagine gaining the power to see the future, but every vision slowly replaces your own memories until you can't remember who you were before. So, how do you survive? The novel introduces something called the acting method. To digest a potion safely, you must embody the role of your sequence. If your sequence is called clown, you must live as a clown, perform, entertain, understand human emotion at a deep level. If your sequence is called psychiatrist, you must counsel and heal minds. The power system literally requires character development to advance. You can't just grind. You have to grow as a person. I've never seen anything like it in any fantasy novel, Eastern or Western. Most power systems are about what you can do. This one is about who you become and the price you pay for it. And when you realize that the gods sitting at the top of these pathways went through this same process, that every god was once a person who climbed and sacrificed and maybe lost pieces of themselves along the way, that's when the world starts to feel very, very different. Now that you understand the power system, let me show you the board it's being played on. Because Lord of the Mysteries isn't just about one man climbing a pathway, it's about dozens of factions, all playing a game that's been running for thousands of years, and most of them don't even know the full rules. At the center of it all are the churches. In this world, gods aren't myths. They're real, they're active, and each one controls a church that dominates entire nations. The Evernight goddess, the Lord of Storms, the God of knowledge and wisdom. These aren't distant figures watching from the heavens. They intervene, they scheme, they have agendas that stretch across centuries. And their churches are more than places of worship. They're intelligence networks, military forces, and the primary gatekeepers of Beyonder potions. And the world these churches fight over, it's enormous. Multiple continents separated by vast, dangerous oceans. The Loan Kingdom, where Klein lives, is just one piece. There's the militaristic Faesak Empire in the north, the Republic of Intis across the strait, the theocratic Fena Potter to the south. Each kingdom is backed by different gods, different churches, different Beyonder factions. The geopolitics alone reads like a Victorian-era Cold War, with colonial ambitions, espionage, and arms races, except the arms are beyond their powers. And then there are the seas. The oceans in this world aren't just water between continents, they're lawless, uncharted, and terrifying. Pirate fleets sail under flags of their own, some led by Beyonders powerful enough to challenge entire navies. There are sea routes no sane captain would take, waters haunted by creatures from the deep, and islands hiding ruins of civilizations older than the gods themselves. Some of the novel's best arcs happen on these seas. The moment Klein steps off land, the story opens up in a way that completely redefines the scale of everything you thought you knew. But the churches and kingdoms aren't the only players. There are secret societies operating in the shadows, organizations that reject the gods' monopoly on power. Some are idealists trying to free humanity, some are madmen chasing forbidden sequences, and some have been pulling strings since before the current gods even existed. And then there's the Tarot Club. This is Klein's inner circle, a secret gathering of Beyonders from different factions, different countries, different pathways, meeting in a space above reality itself. They trade information, potions, and favors. They don't fully trust each other. They need each other. It's one of the most satisfying fictional groups I've ever read because every member has their own arc, their own secrets, and their own reasons for being there. What makes all of this work is the game theory. Every faction has information the others don't. Every alliance is temporary. Every act of cooperation comes with a calculation. What does this cost me, and what do I gain? Churches spy on each other. Kingdoms wage proxy wars through beyond their agents. Pirates play both sides. And Klein navigates this web not with raw power, but with information, disguises, and an understanding that in this world, knowledge is more dangerous than any weapon. And underneath everything, underneath the churches, the kingdoms, the pirate lords, the secret societies, there's a history that nobody fully understands. The world has gone through multiple apocalypses. Entire civilizations have been erased. Gods have fallen, been replaced, been forgotten, and the deeper Klein digs, the more he realizes that the world he's living in is built on top of layers of buried truth. Things that happened thousands of years ago are still shaping events today. Characters you meet in chapter 100 turn out to be connected to events you won't learn about until chapter 800. This is what kept me reading until 4 a.m. Not the action, not the power-ups, the feeling that every chapter peels back another layer, and the picture underneath keeps getting bigger and stranger and more terrifying. You think you understand the world by volume 3. By volume 5, you realize you didn't understand anything at all. And that feeling, that beautiful paranoia, is something I've never found in any other novel. So why am I telling you about this novel and not the hundreds of other web novels out there? Because Lord of the Mysteries breaks the rules, not just of Chinese web fiction, but of fantasy in general. First, the protagonist actually thinks. Klein doesn't walk into a room and overpower everyone. He walks into a room and figures out who's lying, who's dangerous, and which identity he needs to wear to survive. Half the tension in this novel comes from social encounters, dinners, negotiations, interrogations, where one wrong word could expose him. When was the last time a fantasy novel made a dinner party feel like a boss fight? And what makes Klein truly special is that you watch him change, not just in power, in who he is. The Klein you meet in chapter 1 is cautious, a little scared, trying to survive. By the middle of the novel, he's carrying the weight of secrets that would break most people. The potions don't just give him abilities, they pull at his mind, blur the line between his identities, test whether the person underneath is still there. You feel him struggle to hold on to himself. You feel the cost of every advancement. This isn't a protagonist who gets stronger and cooler with no consequences. This is a character who earns every inch of growth and pays for it. Second, the mystery actually pays off. This is a 1400 chapter novel where the author planted seeds in the first 50 chapters that don't bloom until chapter 1200. And when they do, you want to go back and reread everything. Most long-running series lose the plot somewhere around the middle. This one gets tighter the longer it goes. Third, the horror is real. This isn't dark fantasy where things are just edgy for aesthetic. The Lovecraftian elements, the things lurking above the gray fog, the entities that exist beyond human comprehension, they're genuinely unsettling. There are scenes in this novel that stuck with me for days. Not because of gore, but because of the implication, the feeling that something vast and wrong is watching, and it doesn't care about you at all. Most web novels ask you to turn your brain off and enjoy the ride. This one asks you to pay attention, and it rewards every second of it. Now I'll be honest with you. The first 100 chapters are slow. Klein is finding his footing, going to work, making friends, navigating a world he doesn't understand. If you need action every chapter, you'll struggle here. But here's what I'll say. Those early chapters are doing something. They're building a foundation so deep that when the story finally breaks open, it hits like nothing else. I've read this novel 3 times, and on my third read, those slow early chapters, they were my favorite part. Because you see everything the author was setting up, and it's breathtaking. Lord of the Mysteries is complete, 1432 chapters on WebNovel, fully translated, and the translation quality is solid. The sequel, Circle of Inevitability, is also complete, another 1,181 chapters fully translated. That's over 2,600 chapters of story waiting for you right now. And the DONGHUA adaptation launched on Crunchyroll last year, with 6 seasons already planned through 2035. Whether you want to read or watch, there's never been a better time to start. If you've already read Lord of the Mysteries, drop your pathway in the comments. I want to know what you chose. And if this is your first time hearing about it, come back after you start and tell me I was right. I'm Deviation. Too deep into web novels, no cure. Only recommendations. Subscribe if you want more. I'll see you in the next one.